The vastness of space was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. The stars, like distant sentinels, held mysteries no one had ever dreamed of. Yet despite humanity's great advancements and the hundreds of worlds they had conquered, there were still dangers lurking in the dark corners of the universe. Threats so terrifying that even the bravest of warriors would hesitate to face them. It began on a quiet evening in the Galactic Federation's command center. The hum of advanced technology filled the room, and the officers were busy with their routine duties. Nothing out of the ordinary had been detected for weeks, until a strange signal was intercepted. At first, it was nothing more than a faint, crackling sound, a disturbance in the communication channels. The signal was weak, barely audible, but it carried with it a chilling message, a message that would change everything. A plea for help. An unknown alien species, somewhere in the far reaches of the galaxy, had encountered something horrifying, something that had slaughtered entire colonies, left no trace, and was coming for them. The message was filled with desperation. The voice, distorted and trembling, spoke of a predator unlike any other, a being so powerful and deadly that even the most advanced alien civilizations were powerless against it. The Federation's command center was immediately thrown into chaos. Such messages were rare, and those that were received often turned out to be hoaxes or misunderstandings. But something in this transmission struck a nerve. There was no hint of exaggeration or fear-driven panic. It was pure, unfiltered terror. The predator mentioned in the signal was not a simple animal or warlord. It was something far worse, something capable of destroying entire worlds without leaving a single trace behind. In the midst of the growing uncertainty, one name rose to the forefront: Captain Alex Hawk, a seasoned soldier, a leader with a reputation for courage and ingenuity. He had faced down some of the galaxy's deadliest threats before, but this was unlike anything he had ever encountered. Captain Hawk was called into the command center, his mind already racing with the possibilities. His crew, a small yet elite team of soldiers and scientists, would be sent on a dangerous mission to uncover the truth behind this message. They were to travel to an uncharted galaxy, far from Federation space, to find the source of the distress signal and learn what kind of predator could bring such a powerful species to its knees. Captain Hawk gathered his team: Lieutenant Sophie Drake, a brilliant tactician; Sergeant Marco Valdez, a combat specialist known for his fearlessness; Dr. Emily Cortez, an expert in alien biology; and Corporal Ronan Lee, a hacker with a knack for getting into places no one else could. Together, they formed an unbreakable bond, united by their mission and their shared trust in each other. The tension on the ship was palpable as they prepared for departure. The crew's unease was evident in every glance and every whispered conversation. None of them had ever faced an unknown predator of such magnitude, and none of them knew what awaited them in the deep, uncharted space. But they were soldiers, trained to face the unknown and to fight for the survival of humanity. It was their duty to protect their people, no matter the cost. The journey through space was long and filled with uncertainty. The closer they got to the unknown region, the more the crew began to question their mission. Their ship, the Aegis, was a state-of-the-art vessel equipped with the latest in stealth technology, but there was something unsettling about the mission ahead. The further they traveled, the more they felt as if they were being watched, followed by something lurking just beyond the edges of their perception. Everything seemed normal, until it didn't. The first sign that something was wrong came when the ship's radar detected a strange anomaly. It wasn't a ship or any known object. It was a disturbance in the fabric of space itself. Captain Hawk ordered the crew to investigate, and as they approached the source of the disturbance, the atmosphere in the control room grew tense. Lieutenant Drake's voice broke through the silence. "Captain, there's something off about this. It's like something's out there, but we can't see it." Captain Hawk nodded grimly. "Stay sharp. We're not alone." As the crew prepared to make sense of the anomaly, something even stranger happened. The ship's cloaking devices, normally flawless in their operation, began to flicker. At first it was just a minor glitch, but it quickly escalated into something more. The Aegis, a ship known for its ability to hide in plain sight, was now exposed in the vastness of space. Cloaking failure, Ronanly reported. I can't get it back online. We're visible. Captain Hawk's heart skipped a beat. If their cloaking was down, then they were vulnerable to anything lurking nearby. They could be under attack without even knowing it. Shut down all non-essential systems, Captain Hawk barked. We need to isolate the source of this failure. Prepare for evasive maneuvers, just in case. The tension was suffocating. The crew knew that something was out there. They could feel it in their bones. The predator, or whatever it was watching them, waiting for the right moment to strike. Suddenly, the ship's sensors picked up another anomaly. A distortion, a ripple in the fabric of space, like an invisible hand reaching out to touch them. It was a sign that something big, was approaching. We've got incoming, Lieutenant Drake said, her voice tight with tension. Whatever this is, it's heading straight for us. Captain Hawk's mind raced. The predator had made its move. It had found them. And now there was no turning back. The crew scrambled to prepare for the worst, but just as they were about to engage evasive maneuvers, the Aegis shuddered violently. The ship's hull groaned, and alarms blared as the power systems flickered. The predator had attacked, but they couldn't even see it. It was invisible, undetectable by any conventional means. Captain Hawk gripped the controls tightly, his knuckles white. Report, he demanded. We've been hit, Marco Valdez replied, his voice strained. No major damage, but we've lost auxiliary power. Shields are down to 50%. The crew had been ambushed. No warning, no sign of what had attacked them. The predator was not only deadly, but it had the ability to strike without ever revealing itself. It was a force unlike anything they had ever faced. This is just the beginning, Captain Hawk muttered under his breath. We need to find it, or we won't make it out of here alive. The predator had revealed its presence, but still, it remained invisible, like a shadow in the dark. It was intelligent, a master of stealth, and it could track the humans even when they thought they were hidden. The crew had no idea what they were up against, but they knew one thing for certain. If they didn't act quickly, they would become the predator's next victims. In those tense moments, as the crew braced for the next attack, they realized something terrifying. They had no idea what kind of creature they were dealing with, but they would soon find out, because this predator was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen, and it had already set its sights on them. The Aegis slowly descended through the thick atmosphere of the desolate planet. The crew could feel the weight of their mission pressing on them, the uncertainty of what lay ahead hanging in the air like a thick fog. The planet, once home to a powerful and advanced alien race, was now a shadow of its former self. From their vantage point high above the surface, all they could see was a barren wasteland, ruined cities, crumbled buildings, and miles of empty desert stretching in every direction. Captain Alex Hawk stared out the window, his mind racing. The distress signal had led them here, to this forsaken world. It was clear that whatever had happened, it wasn't a natural disaster. There were no signs of a planet-wide catastrophe. No explosions, no catastrophic events from space. Instead, the cities lay in ruins, as if something had torn through them with unfathomable force. It was as if the entire planet had been razed in a single night. The team had already been on edge since their close call in space. But now, stepping onto the surface of the planet, the atmosphere grew heavy with dread. The air was thick and oppressive, filled with a strange, metallic scent, as if the land itself had been corrupted by the presence of something unnatural. The once glorious cities, now reduced to rubble, were a haunting reminder of the destructive force that had visited this place. It was impossible to ignore the feeling that they were walking through a graveyard of civilizations. "Stay close," Captain Hawk ordered, his voice low and tense. "We don't know what's out here." The crew moved cautiously, weapons drawn, scanning the wreckage for any signs of life or death. There were no signs of the alien species that had once inhabited the planet, no remains of those who had fought here. It was as if everything had simply vanished, wiped clean from existence. They found only destruction, torn buildings, shattered roads, and the remnants of once advanced technologies now rendered useless. The eerie silence that surrounded them was deafening. It was the kind of silence that suggested the planet had been abandoned for far longer than it should have been. As they ventured deeper into the ruins, Dr. Emily Cortez's voice broke the stillness. "Captain, look at this." She was kneeling beside a massive structure, one of the last standing buildings on the planet. The walls were scorched and pocked with strange markings, marks that could only have been left by an unimaginable weapon. She ran her fingers along the surface, tracing the pattern. "This doesn't look like anything I've seen before," she said, her voice tinged with both awe and fear. "This damage, it's not from a conventional weapon. It's more like a biological weapon, something that can tear apart structures from the inside out." Captain Hawk's gut tightened. They had seen some advanced alien weapons before, but this was different. This wasn't just a weapon. It was something worse. Something that could destroy not just cities but entire species. Suddenly, a low hum filled the air, and the ground beneath their feet began to tremble. The hum grew louder, more intense, and Captain Hawk's instincts kicked in. He signaled for the team to take cover. "Get to the ship. Now," he shouted. They scrambled for the Aegis, but before they could make it back to the ship, the first signs of danger became clear. A shadow moved across the rubble, too quick for any of them to see. The Predator was here, and it wasn't wasting any time. The air around them grew cold, and the hairs on the back of their necks stood up as if they were being washed. Without warning, the Predator struck. It emerged from the shadows like a nightmare, its form shifting and contorting in impossible ways. At first, it was just a blur, its body partially transparent, as though it existed on a different plane of reality. It seemed to bend and warp, moving with a speed that defied logic. The creature was using some kind of cloaking technology, making it nearly invisible to the naked eye. It was like nothing any of them had ever seen before. "Fire!" Captain Hawk barked, but it was too late. The Predator lunged, faster than any of them could react. It was upon them in an instant, its claws slashing through the air. Bonner, the youngest member of the crew, didn't even have time to scream as the creature's claw tore through his chest. The Predator moved again, too fast for the rest of the team to aim accurately. The Aegis crew scattered, trying to fight back, but their weapons were useless against the creature's speed and its ability to vanish and reappear at will. Bonner's body hit the ground with a sickening thud, and for a brief moment, everything went still. The team could barely comprehend what had just happened. Bonner, the soldier who had been with them since the beginning, was gone in an instant. "Bonner!" Sergeant Marco Valdez shouted, his voice thick with disbelief. He ran to his fallen comrade, but it was already too late. The wound was fatal, and Bonner was beyond saving. The Predator had vanished into the shadows once more, but its presence hung over the crew like a dark cloud. The loss of Bonner sent a wave of shock and grief through the remaining soldiers. The crew had always been a tight-knit team, but now they were shaken to their core. The mission that had once seemed like a simple search-and-destroy operation had just turned into a fight for survival. Captain Hawk gathered the team quickly, trying to restore some sense of order. "Focus," he snapped. "We're not leaving here without answers. This thing is going to pay for what it did to Bonner." They didn't have time to mourn. The Predator was still out there, and the crew had no idea where it would strike next. They couldn't afford to panic. They needed to regroup and formulate a plan. The creature was obviously not just a mindless beast. It was intelligent, strategic, and had the ability to attack and disappear at will. "We can't fight this thing head-on," Lieutenant Sophie Drake said, her voice calm despite the fear in her eyes. "We need to find a way to trap it, to corner it. If it can cloak itself, Then maybe we can use our ship's sensors to track it. Captain Hawk nodded. We'll need to be smarter than this creature if we want to survive. The next time it attacks, we need to be ready. The team began to prepare. They scoured the wreckage for any signs of technology that could help them fight back, while keeping a wary eye on the shadows. The predator was close, and they knew it. It was only a matter of time before it attacked again. Every moment felt like an eternity. The air around them grew colder, the silence more oppressive. They were being hunted. The predator had made its move, and they had barely survived. Now, the crew had to do more than just survive. They had to stop it. But the question was, how could they stop a creature that could turn invisible, that could tear through their ranks with terrifying precision? The crew was about to learn the hard way that they were not facing just another alien menace. They were facing the deadliest predator that the galaxy had ever known. And it was closer than they thought. The Aegis crew had barely made it back to the ship after their last encounter with the predator. Captain Alex Hawk stood at the helm, his eyes locked on the planet's surface below. He could still see the ruins of the alien cities in his mind, burned, broken, and twisted by the predator's savage nature. The crew was shaken, but they couldn't afford to linger in their grief. Bonner was gone, and the rest of the team had to move forward. There was no other choice. Captain, Dr. Emily Cortez's voice came over the comms, sharp and direct. I think we found something. He turned to face the comm screen, his expression grim. Dr. Cortez and her team had been combing through the remains of the city, searching for any clue that could explain the predator's origins. It hadn't been easy, given the alien technology scattered across the wreckage. Some of it was too advanced for their human minds to understand, but they had managed to locate a data cache, an encrypted alien archive. The question was, could they unlock it? On my way, Captain Hawk replied, already moving toward the science bay. Inside the lab, Dr. Cortez was working furiously at a terminal, her brow furrowed in concentration. The rest of the team stood in tense silence, waiting for some kind of revelation. We've cracked part of the code, Dr. Cortez said, eyes wide with shock. This isn't just any predator. It's a remnant of an ancient empire, a species that once ruled the galaxy. Captain Hawk leaned forward. What do you mean, a remnant? According to these records, this creature, this predator, was part of a once great alien civilization that dominated the galaxy, Dr. Cortez explained. They were technologically superior, biological enhancements far beyond what we could imagine. But a rebellion erupted, led by humanity, against this empire. The weight of her words hung heavy in the room. The humans had fought back against an advanced, galaxy-spanning empire. It wasn't just a fight for survival. It had been a fight for freedom. A fight that had brought down an entire galactic order. And the predator. It was one of the last remnants of that fallen empire. An ancient warrior turned hunter, seeking vengeance for the loss of everything its species had once controlled. Let me guess, Lieutenant Sophie Drake interjected, her voice tight with anger. The predator isn't just here because of the devastation it caused. It's here because it's been hunting us, seeking revenge for centuries. That's exactly what it is, Dr. Cortez said, her voice trembling. This creature has been hunting humanity for hundreds of years. It wasn't enough to destroy its own people. It's been tracking us, hoping for a chance to finish what its empire started. Captain Hawk stood still for a moment, processing the revelation. A vengeful predator, a hunter with a deep, ancient grudge against humanity. It made everything clearer, but it also raised new questions. If the predator had been hunting humans for centuries, why was it only now attacking in full force? What had triggered this renewed campaign of terror? Captain Hawk gathered the team quickly, trying to restore some sense of order. Focus, he snapped. We're not leaving here without answers. This thing is going to pay for what it did to Bonner. They didn't have time to mourn. The predator was still out there, and the crew had no idea where it would strike next. They couldn't afford to panic. They needed to regroup and formulate a plan. The creature was obviously not just a mindless beast. It was intelligent, strategic, and had the ability to attack and disappear at will. "We can't fight this thing head-on," Lieutenant Sophie Drake said, her voice calm despite the fear in her eyes. "We need to find a way to trap it, to corner it. If it can cloak itself, then maybe we can use our ship's sensors to track it." Captain Hawk nodded. "We'll need to be smarter than this creature if we want to survive. The next time it attacks, we need to be ready." The team began to prepare. They scoured the wreckage for any signs of technology that could help them fight back, while keeping a wary eye on the shadows. The predator was close, and they knew it. It was only a matter of time before it attacked again. Every moment felt like an eternity. The air around them grew colder, the silence more oppressive. They were being hunted. The predator had made its move, and they had barely survived. Now, the crew had to do more than just survive. They had to stop it. But the question was, how could they stop a creature that could turn invisible, that could tear through their ranks with terrifying precision? The crew was about to learn the hard way that they were not facing just another alien menace. They were facing the deadliest predator the galaxy had ever known, and it was closer than they thought. The Aegis crew had barely made it back to the ship after their last encounter with the predator. Captain Alex Hawk stood at the helm, his eyes locked on the planet's surface below. He could still see the ruins of the alien cities in his mind, burned, broken, and twisted by the predator's savage nature. The crew was shaken, but they couldn't afford to linger in their grief. Bonner was gone, and the rest of the team had to move forward. There was no other choice. "Captain," Dr. Emily Cortez's voice came over the comms, sharp and direct. "I think we found something." He turned to face the comm screen, his expression grim. Dr. Cortez and her team had been combing through the remains of the city, searching for any clue that could explain the predator's origins. It hadn't been easy, given the alien technology scattered across the wreckage. Some of it was too advanced for their human minds to understand, but they had managed to locate a data cache, an encrypted alien archive. The question was, could they unlock it? "On my way," Captain Hawk replied, already moving toward the science bay. Inside the lab, Dr. Cortez was working furiously at a terminal, her brow furrowed in concentration. The rest of the team stood in tense silence, waiting for some kind of revelation. "We've cracked part of the code," Dr. Cortez said, eyes wide with shock. "This isn't just any predator. It's a remnant of an ancient empire, a species that once ruled the galaxy." Captain Hawk leaned forward. "What do you mean, a remnant?" "According to these records, this creature, this predator, was part of a once great alien civilization that dominated the galaxy," Dr. Cortez explained. "They were technologically superior, biological enhancements far beyond what we could imagine. But a rebellion erupted, led by humanity, against this empire." The weight of her words hung heavy in the room. The humans had fought back against an advanced, galaxy-spanning empire. It wasn't just a fight for survival. It had been a fight for freedom, a fight that had brought down an entire galactic order. And the predator. It was one of the last remnants of that fallen empire, an ancient warrior turned hunter, seeking vengeance for the loss of everything its species had once controlled. "Let me guess," Lieutenant Sophie Drake interjected, her voice tight with anger. "The predator isn't just here because of the devastation it caused. It's here because it's been hunting us, seeking revenge for centuries." "That's exactly what it is," Dr. Cortez said, her voice trembling. "This creature has been hunting humanity for hundreds of years. It wasn't enough to destroy its own people. It's been tracking us, hoping for a chance to finish what its empire started." Captain Hawk stood still for a moment, processing the revelation. A vengeful predator, a hunter with a deep, ancient grudge against humanity. It made everything clearer, but it also raised new questions. If the predator had been hunting humans for centuries, why was it only now attacking in full force? What had triggered this renewed campaign of terror? "We need to find a way to fight back," Captain Hawk said, his tone low and determined. "We know its origins now, but we still don't know how to stop it." Dr. Cortez nodded. "We found more information in the archives. The Predator's race developed advanced technology, biological enhancements that made them nearly unstoppable. They have weapons we can't even begin to understand. And this creature, this Predator, is the last of its kind." The crew exchanged nervous glances. The Predator's technological superiority was overwhelming. It had weapons that could decimate them in seconds, cloaking devices that made it invisible, and biological upgrades that gave it strength, speed, and agility far beyond anything humans could match. This was no ordinary alien menace. This was a war machine, designed for one thing only: destruction. "We can't beat it with conventional weapons," Captain Hawk said. "But maybe we don't need to fight it head-on." "What are you suggesting?" asked Sergeant Marco Valdez. "I'm suggesting we use its own hunting instincts against it. We don't know all the details of its technology, but we know it's been stalking us. It's used to being the hunter, not the hunted. If we can force it into a situation where it has to come to us, we might have a chance." The idea wasn't without risk. The Predator was deadly, and if they made one wrong move, they could all be wiped out. But Captain Hawk had seen enough of his crew fight to know that they were capable of far more than just surviving. They were going to fight back, and they were going to do it on their terms. As the crew began to prepare, the air in the ship's command center grew thick with tension. Every step they took felt like it could be their last, but they knew they had to act quickly. The Predator wasn't going to wait for them to get ready. It would be out there, watching them, waiting for the next moment to strike. They set their plan in motion, using the ship's sensors to track any disturbances in the environment, anything that might indicate the Predator's presence. With each passing minute, the tension grew. They knew it was out there, lurking in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to strike. But now, they were ready. And then, it happened. The ground shook, and the ship's alarms blared as the Predator's form appeared out of nowhere. An impossibly fast blur of motion. It was right in front of them, its cloaking device failing for just a moment, revealing its massive form. The creature's eyes, glowing with an unnatural light, locked onto the crew, and in an instant, it was charging toward them. Captain Hawk's voice rang out, clear and commanding. "Deploy the countermeasures." The crew launched a series of advanced energy traps that they had set up around the area. The Predator's cloaking device had worked, but it hadn't been enough to avoid detection by their specialized technology. As the energy fields flickered to life, the Predator hesitated, momentarily confused by the sudden surge of power. It didn't stop the creature for long, though. It roared in fury, its claws flashing out in a deadly arc. The crew fired back with everything they had, but their weapons barely scratched the Predator's armor. It was as if they were up against an unstoppable force, an entity that had evolved to be the ultimate predator. Yet even in the face of overwhelming odds, the humans didn't falter. They fought back, determined not to let the creature destroy them, determined not to let it take them down without a fight. For a moment, everything seemed to slow down. The Predator, though outclassed in terms of sheer numbers, was still relentless. It moved faster than the human team could react, and its strikes were precise, deadly. Yet the humans were learning its patterns. They were beginning to understand how it thought, how it hunted. And for the first time, they realized that this Predator, though incredibly dangerous, was not invincible. The battle was far from over, and the Predator was far from beaten. But Captain Hawk and his crew had just learned a critical lesson. They didn't have to defeat the Predator with brute force. They just needed to outsmart it. They were no longer the prey. They were the hunters. The question now was, would they survive long enough to finish the fight? The vast, desolate planet stretched out before the crew of the Aegis, its surface scarred by the remnants of ancient battles and civilizations long since lost. Captain Alex Hawk stood at the forefront, staring out into the barren wasteland. They had been on this planet for hours now, each moment filled with the pressure of knowing that at any moment the predator could strike again. Yet something was shifting within him. They had faced it once, and now they had a plan, a strategy that might just give them the edge they needed. The predator was relentless, nearly unbeatable with its cloaking abilities, superior technology, and biological enhancements. But Captain Hawk wasn't willing to accept defeat. The key to survival, he believed, wasn't in matching the predator's strength or technology. It was in outsmarting it, using human ingenuity, and working as one. Together, they could survive. Together, they could find a way to turn the tide. "Gather up." Captain Hawk called out to his crew, his voice firm and filled with determination. The team had assembled in the ship's war room, a tense silence hanging over them as they listened intently to his plan. "We know the predator's strengths. It can cloak itself. It can strike from the shadows. And it's faster, stronger, and more deadly than any of us. But it has one weakness. It's not as adaptable as we are. It's used to hunting prey, not being hunted. If we can use the environment to our advantage, we might be able to catch it off guard." The crew exchanged determined glances. They knew the risks. Every decision they made could be the difference between life and death. But they also knew one thing. They had nothing to lose. Captain Hawk outlined his plan. They would set traps across the planet's terrain, hidden energy fields that could reveal the predator's cloaked form, advanced tech designed to track its movements, and strategically placed explosives to take out its scouts. They couldn't match the creature's strength, but they could use the land itself as a weapon. "We might not have their firepower, but we have something they don't. The power of surprise," Captain Hawk continued. "The terrain is our ally. We just need to make sure we keep our heads about us." The crew nodded in agreement. They had no choice but to go all in. There was no other way. As they moved out into the night, the weight of Bonner's death still hung heavily on their shoulders. His sacrifice had pushed them to the edge of their resolve, but it had also united them in a way nothing else could. They weren't just fighting for survival anymore. They were fighting to honor their fallen comrade, to make sure his death meant something. They had come together as a team, a family, and they would fight as one. The first wave of action came quickly. The predator had sent out scouts, looking for any sign of weakness in the human defenses. The humans, however, had anticipated this move. They had set up energy fields along the perimeter of the area, knowing the predator's cloaking device couldn't bypass the sensors. As soon as the scouts entered the field, alarms blared across the planet's surface, alerting the humans to their presence. "Now," Captain Hawk barked, and the crew sprang into action. They moved quickly, working as a coordinated unit. The predator's scouts were formidable, but they weren't invincible. Close quarters combat broke out as the humans engaged the first wave of enemies, their laser weapons lighting up the night sky. The air was filled with the sound of blasts, the metallic shriek of weapons colliding, and the roar of alien creatures. Sergeant Valdez and Lieutenant Drake were on the front lines, working together to fight off the predator's scouts. The team's training kicked in, and despite the odds, they fought like a well-oiled machine. Each member of the team had their role, their skill set, and they played to it perfectly. The predator's scouts were strong, but they couldn't match the humans' resilience and resourcefulness. Captain Hawk watched from a distance, ensuring that everything went according to plan. He could hear the roar of battle in the distance, but his mind was focused on one thing, the bigger picture. The predator was still out there, and this was just the beginning. Every move they made had to be calculated, every trap set with precision. They had to outsmart the creature at every turn. As the battle raged on, the crew began to feel the weight of their situation. They were outclassed, outgunned, and vastly outnumbered by the predator's forces, but they weren't going down without a fight. Every step they took, every strategy they implemented, was done with the understanding that this was their only shot at survival. The loss of Bonner still stung, but it had transformed into something more than grief. It was a source of strength. Bonner's sacrifice had shown them what was at stake. They couldn't afford to fail. Not now. Not when they had come this far. The humans' traps were working. One by one, the Predator's scouts were revealed by the energy fields, and they fell to the humans' superior strategy. But the Predator wasn't going to let its forces fall so easily. The air crackled with tension as the creature's forces regrouped, ready for a second assault. "We can't let up now," Captain Hawk said, his voice grim. "This is just the beginning. They'll come back stronger." The crew braced themselves for what was to come. They had learned a lot from their first encounter. And now, they were prepared. The traps, the technology, the terrain. It all worked in their favor. They just had to keep pushing forward. The next wave hit faster than they anticipated. The Predator scouts had learned from their mistakes, and they adapted quickly. But the humans were ready. They fought back with everything they had, using the environment, their technology, and their will to survive to gain the upper hand. Close quarters combat became even more intense, with the humans fighting tooth and nail to protect their team and their mission. Each blast, each swing of the blade, each shot fired was a testament to their determination to survive. The Predator's scouts were formidable, but the humans' resilience was unstoppable. Despite the danger, despite the fear, they fought on. They fought not just for themselves, but for each other. They fought for the memory of their fallen comrades. They fought because they knew that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in their weapons or their technology. It was in their ability to come together in the face of overwhelming odds. As the battle continued into the night, the humans began to make headway. They had outsmarted the Predator scouts, and now they were preparing for the next phase of the plan. The Predator had underestimated them before, but it wouldn't make the same mistake again. The humans were no longer just the prey. They were the hunters. Captain Hawk stood tall, watching the sky as his team regrouped. "We've taken the first step," he said, his voice filled with determination. "But this isn't over. Not by a long shot. We've shown them that we won't go down easily, and we're not going to stop until we take this fight to them." The night was far from over, and the battle was only beginning. But the humans had proven one thing. They would not be defeated. They would fight, and they would survive. No matter what it took. And as the first rays of dawn began to break across the horizon, Captain Hawk knew that the war for survival was far from over. But with his crew by his side, he was ready for whatever came next. Together, they were unstoppable. Together, they were humanity's last hope. The sun was setting behind the jagged, ruined mountains, casting long shadows over the battlefield that lay ahead. The planet, once home to an advanced alien civilization, now stood as a graveyard of its former glory. Captain Alex Hawk stood at the front of his crew, watching the horizon. The Predator, his relentless enemy, was still out there, lurking in the darkness, waiting for its next move. But this time, it was different. This time, the humans had a plan. This time, they would turn the tide. The trap was set. The Predator had been lured into the heart of their stronghold, a place where the crew had carefully arranged their weapons and technology to take advantage of the terrain. It wasn't just a fight for survival anymore. It was the final showdown, the battle that would determine whether humanity could stand against a force that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries. The air was thick with tension. Every moment that passed brought them closer to the inevitable confrontation. The crew knew that the Predator was faster, stronger, and more lethal than anything they had ever faced. But they had something the Predator didn't: human determination. They were united in their mission, and that unity was their greatest weapon. "We've come this far," Captain Hawk said, his voice calm but resolute. "We're not backing down now. This ends today." The crew nodded in agreement. They had lost comrades. They had faced death more times than they could count. But now, with their trap in place and their technology ready, they felt a sense of hope. They were ready. As the team took their positions, a sense of dread settled over them. They knew what was coming. The predator, relentless as ever, would stop at nothing to hunt them down. Its cloaking field had made it nearly impossible to track, and its advanced weaponry had wiped out everything in its path. But now, it was time for the humans to strike back. Captain Hawk signaled for the operation to begin. The ground trembled as the first wave of their attack began. The predator's cloaking field flickered in the distance, a sign that it was nearby, lurking just beyond the edge of their detection systems. The humans were ready, though, and the moment they had been waiting for had arrived. With a sudden flash of light, the predator's cloaked form appeared, charging toward the humans at an incredible speed. It was as terrifying as the legends had described, an unstoppable force that seemed to move with inhuman speed and precision. Its body shimmered with an eerie glow as it darted in and out of visibility, leaving no time for the humans to react. But they were prepared. Using their advanced AI technology, the humans activated a series of powerful energy pulses designed to counter the predator's cloaking system. The sky lit up as the energy beams swept across the battlefield, cutting through the predator's camouflage and revealing its monstrous form. For the first time, the humans could see their enemy clearly, and the real battle began. Captain Hawk led the charge, pushing forward with everything he had. The predator's speed was overwhelming, but the human strategy was proving to be effective. The coordinated attacks and clever use of technology began to shift the balance in their favor. For every move the predator made, the humans were there to counter it. It was a brutal, relentless fight, but the predator had underestimated the power of human ingenuity. The battle escalated as the humans closed in on their target. The predator fought with ferocity, using its advanced weaponry to fire powerful blasts that tore through the landscape. Each strike from the predator was like a thunderclap, sending shockwaves through the air. But the humans didn't falter. They fought back with equal intensity, using everything at their disposal to hold their ground. As the battle raged on, the sky above them began to change. In the distance, massive warships appeared, their engines burning bright as they prepared to unleash a devastating orbital bombardment. The humans had called in reinforcements, an entire fleet of ships ready to provide support in the final stages of the fight. The predator's lair was about to be obliterated. The orbital bombardment began with a deafening roar, and the sky exploded in a blaze of light. Explosions rocked the ground beneath them as the predator's main lair was hit by wave after wave of firepower. The predator's forces, now vulnerable without their leader, began to scatter, trying to escape the onslaught. But it was too late. The humans had them trapped. In the midst of the chaos, Captain Hawk's mind raced. He knew that the predator's main weapon, the source of its strength, was still operational. If it wasn't destroyed, the predator could still turn the battle in its favor. He glanced around, seeing the destruction unfolding around him. The predator was weakening, but the fight was far from over. "Captain, we have to fall back," one of his crew members shouted, urging him to retreat. But Captain Hawk didn't hesitate. "No," he said firmly. "We finish this now." The team had already made their sacrifices, and Hawk knew that this was his moment. He had to destroy the predator's weapon, or everything they had fought for would be for nothing. With the predator distracted by the bombardment, Captain Hawk sprinted toward the enemy's main base. The air was thick with the acrid smell of smoke, and the ground trembled beneath him as explosions continued to shake the landscape. He could see the predator's weapon up ahead, glowing with an eerie light. It was protected by a force field, but Hawk had a plan. He reached into his utility belt and pulled out a small device, an EMP charge. It was their last hope, the one thing that could disable the predator's weapon and stop it from turning the tide of the battle. With a steady hand, he attached the charge to the base of the weapon, just as the predator turned to face him. The predator's eyes burned with rage as it locked onto Hawk. For a moment, the two enemies stood face to face, the final showdown between man and monster. Captain Hawk knew this could be his last moment, but he didn't hesitate. He activated the EMP charge and in an instant, a blinding pulse of energy shot out, disabling the predator's weapon and sending it into a frenzy. The predator roared in fury, but it was too late. The humans had won. Captain Hawk collapsed to his knees, exhausted and battered, as the ground beneath him continued to shake from the ongoing bombardment. His team rushed to his side, helping him up and lifting him away from the chaos. The predator had been defeated, its main weapon destroyed, and its forces scattered. Humanity had survived. As the final blast rang out, signaling the end of the battle, Captain Hawk allowed himself a moment of relief. The fight was over. The predator was no more. The crew had done the impossible. But in the back of his mind, Hawk knew that this victory came at a great cost. The loss of their comrades, the sacrifices they had made, would never be forgotten. They had fought for survival, for each other, and for humanity's future. And as the dust settled over the battlefield, the crew of the Aegis stood tall, knowing they had won the greatest battle of their lives. Humanity had proven that, even in the face of overwhelming odds, they would never give up. They would never stop fighting. The predator had underestimated them. And now, the galaxy would never forget the day humanity stood its ground and defeated a force that had once been invincible. The battle had been long and grueling. The planet's once majestic cities now lay in ruins, a testament to the fury and devastation that had been unleashed during the conflict. The skies, once filled with the light of distant stars, were now clouded with smoke and debris, the aftermath of a war fought in the shadows. But the humans had done it. They had defeated the predator, an enemy so fierce and relentless that it had seemed unstoppable. As Captain Alex Hawk and his crew stood victorious on the battlefield, the final remnants of the predator's forces were scattered, its once imposing presence reduced to a mere echo in the distance. The predator itself, now lying motionless at their feet, no longer held the same terrifying power it once had. The creature's true form had been revealed, and with it came a startling revelation. Beneath the monstrous appearance, beneath the deadly camouflage, and the terrifying hunting instincts, was something that human eyes could now fully comprehend. A once great alien warrior, corrupted and twisted by centuries of revenge. It was not just a mindless killing machine, as the humans had first believed, but a being who had once been noble, powerful, and honorable. The predator was the last remnant of a fallen empire, an alien race that had once ruled the galaxy with an iron fist. But somewhere along the way, its desire for vengeance had consumed it, turning it into a monster that hunted with no regard for anything other than its thirst for destruction. The truth hit Captain Hawk harder than he had anticipated. Standing over the fallen predator, he could see the glimmer of a past life in its cold, lifeless eyes. This was not just an enemy to be vanquished. This was a being who had lost its way, a warrior who had become consumed by hatred, whose mind had been twisted by centuries of revenge. It was a tragic reminder of the dangers of unchecked power and blind hatred, a lesson that humanity would carry with them long after the battle had ended. As the crew gathered around the predator's body, they couldn't help but reflect on the nature of their victory. The humans had triumphed not through sheer strength or overwhelming firepower, but through unity, strategy, and most importantly, their unwavering determination to survive. They were the underdogs in every sense of the word. They had faced an enemy far more powerful, far more advanced than anything they had ever encountered. But through their ingenuity and resilience, they had overcome it. They had shown the galaxy that humans were not to be underestimated. This victory, while hard-earned and bittersweet, was a turning point for humanity. The predator's race, which had once considered itself superior, had been shattered. The galaxy would now know that humanity was not a species to be ignored, not a civilization to be dismissed as weak or insignificant. The predator's race had failed to see the strength that lay within humanity, strength born of unity, courage, and the relentless will to survive. It was a stark contrast to the predator's own descent into madness, a race so consumed by its own desire for vengeance that it had lost sight of what truly mattered. The humans, in contrast, had stood together, fought together, and emerged victorious despite the odds. As Captain Hawk and his crew made their way back to their ship, the weight of their victory began to settle in. They were battered, bruised, and weary, but they were alive. The loss of their comrades, especially Bonner, who had sacrificed so much for the team, still stung deeply. But they had made it through the storm. They had faced an enemy that seemed unbeatable, and they had won. Captain Hawk couldn't help but reflect on the journey that had brought them to this point. They had come so far, and yet the road ahead was still uncertain. They had fought for survival, for each other, and for humanity's place in the galaxy. The Predator, though vanquished, had been a reminder of the dangers that lurked in the darkness of space. But the humans had faced those dangers head-on, and they had emerged victorious. They had proven that no matter how great the threat, no matter how powerful the enemy, humanity would always rise to the challenge. The journey had been one of survival, but it had also been one of self-discovery. Captain Hawk knew that the humans, in their struggle against the Predator, had discovered something deeper within themselves. They had learned the true meaning of resilience, the ability to fight on, no matter the odds, no matter the cost. It was a lesson that would stay with them for the rest of their lives. As the ship's engines roared to life, and they began their journey back to Earth, Captain Hawk gazed out the viewport, watching as the planet that had once been the Predator's home receded into the distance. The galaxy, vast and unknowable, stretched out before them, but humanity's place in it was no longer uncertain. They had proven their worth, not through might, but through the strength of their spirit. Humanity had faced an enemy that seemed invincible, and they had emerged victorious. The Predator's true face had been revealed, and it had shown them that even the mightiest of empires could fall when consumed by hatred and revenge. The humans had shown the galaxy that they would not be cowed, that they would fight for their survival, no matter what. The final message of the battle was clear. Humanity would not go quietly into the night. They had proven that they could stand up to the darkness, that they could face down evil and come out on top. The Predator's race, once thought to be the dominant force in the galaxy, had been defeated by the very species it had once looked down upon. Captain Hawk stood tall, looking forward to the future with a renewed sense of purpose. The battle was over, but the war for humanity's place in the galaxy was just beginning. The humans had proven themselves as a rising force, and no one would ever underestimate them again. The Predator had been a tragic figure, a warning of what happens when power and hatred are allowed to fester unchecked. But humanity's victory was a testament to the strength of the human spirit. It was a message to the galaxy. The underdog had won, and the future belonged to those who never gave up. As the ship soared through the stars, Captain Hawk knew that the journey was far from over. The universe was vast, filled with unknown dangers and challenges. But humanity had proven that no matter what came next, they would face it head-on. They would survive, they would thrive, and they would never stop fighting.